Here we go again with the AEW never-ending drama. Guess what? We are back to talk about, guess who? CM Punk and all of his issues with his fellow employees in AEW. He is at it again, shooting hard on Hangman Page as Collision went off the air on Saturday. That's what we're here to talk about primarily today. That whole situation, plus we're going to review Collision. We're going to look ahead to tonight's Monday Night Raw, which goes live in about 2 hours. And apparently this Friday night on SmackDown might be Edge's last match of his career, which is very sad. We'll talk about all of that. And welcome to Greg Balls of Fire. I've been trying to come up with a little side podcast to do when we're not up here doing the big winged eagles. If there's just a couple of subjects to talk about, or if it's been a busy week for me personally and I wasn't able to get up here for a big podcast, or there's some extra stuff to talk about, anytime that I can use these to plug these in the week, during the week, middle of the week, weekend, whatever, to catch up on some big news without having to run a big, long 2-hour podcast. So I came up with Greg Balls of Fire. We kind of did a little dry run on this last week, and I wanted something just easy and quick, just a general overlay that I can use for multiple episodes, just to come up here quickly and talk about stuff when we need to. And so that's what today is going to be about. I was planning to come up here tomorrow afternoon and review Raw as well, but I had a scheduling conflict with work. Now I've got to be there. So I figured we would come up and do a very rare Monday afternoon podcast where, prior to Raw, where we'll look ahead to tonight's Raw. We got the big Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch match taking place. And I haven't seen anything else advertised by WWE yet today, but maybe by the time we're done here, they will have announced a couple of other matches. And I also have dinner plans tonight as well. So I'm not going to, that's why we're not up here tonight after Raw to talk about Raw, because I have dinner plans tonight. I got work plans tomorrow. So that kind of left today to get up here and talk about Collision and to talk about CM Punk's comments on Hangman Page, what that means in AEW going forward, more of the dramatic turmoil that's going on backstage, and how that might affect All In, which now has officially surpassed 80,000 tickets sold and will probably break the all-time record for a pro wrestling attended show of all time. And that's crazy. So we're going to be talking about that, but it's going to be primarily focused on AEW today, what CM Punk said, what the implications of that are going to be, whether or not this is a work, how this factors into other situations like Ryan Nemeth and Christopher Daniels and Matt Hardy and a lot of other names floating around in terms of people who have had issues being on Collision or being sent home or whatever. A lot of stuff to report. And we'll be getting into that here today before Raw. And this should only be about an hour and a half long podcast. That's it. Very light on my notes here. It's more just going to be discussing all of this mess going on behind the scenes in AEW that CM Punk seems to be right at the center of. So hopefully you guys are having a great day. Thank you for being here on this Monday afternoon. Please do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me. And please subscribe. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers. We're about 1,200 subscribers away from that, maybe a little more. So please subscribe, and we will get there quickly. And also the thumbs up engagements really help the videos and the channel. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. Let me just say hi quickly here to the chat. Zane G is in the house. Nick Musser, good to see those blue year-long membership badges showing up. My God, good to see the Juliet in here as well. And Max Pokebra, maybe I'm naive, but I hope what Punk did was an angle. You would think. I have a really hard time understanding why the hell he would do this if it's not an angle. And we'll talk about that. But apparently, according to sources, it's not an angle at all. And this was, in fact, a shoot, and nobody was expecting it. But you don't really truly know. But it is pretty messed up if it's not an angle. And we'll talk about why here in just a minute. Good to see. Yes, dude. Amato's in the house. Good to see you. A-Dog Gons. It's good to see you in here for a chat. We got Dan Price as well. Jay Lambo. Rodrigo is here. So is Gilbert. Stephen Harris. David Brown. Good to see you. Happy Monday to you. Sean Ireland. Denny Downbad. 7th season. We have Michael Cuomo, another OG in here. Sonic Plays. Dessa Mania is here. Paul Carpenter, Corey Mitchell, and Deshaun Robinson, my friend. Good to see you guys hanging out this afternoon. Hopefully tonight's Raw is a good show. I'm going to see about 60% of it, and then I've got to leave and head off to dinner, so I will be watching a little bit of Monday Night Raw. But something that we should talk about really quick right off the bat here is something that I kind of just learned about. I was not seeing these reports about Edge until just a few minutes before we went live. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to really read up on this or research this, but it is being reported or rumored that this Friday night on SmackDown, when Edge has his match with Sheamus, which was outlined last week in their promo, Edge wanting to have a match with Sheamus. They've never faced each other before, and it was in that mountain bike outing with Sheamus that made Edge realize that he might actually be able to get back in the ring. Now, we talked about on Saturday on the Winged Eagle when we were reviewing SmackDown. I said, remember last year, Edge cut that promo in Toronto right after SummerSlam, and he said something to the effect of, in a perfect world, I retire 1 year from now in this building, because WWE always runs Toronto in the summer. So most likely they're going to be back here a year from now. And this is where I would like to hang it up and retire for good. Now, I was hoping that they would build something over the next year, kick an angle off at the beginning of the year that would maybe lead to this in a big culmination, loser leaves town, a retirement match, something like that for Edge. But we never really got that. Edge has kind of been on and off of TV sporadically. I predicted him to lose at WrestleMania. I thought Finn Balor was going to beat him, because in my head, I had this Toronto date in my mind. And I said, if he is still planning on retiring in 3 or 4 months, why would he beat Finn Balor in this Hell in a Cell? Why, might as well just use him to put guys over at this point. So now you fast forward to SmackDown on Friday, and I mentioned on Saturday's Winged Eagle, I said, Edge said he wanted to retire right there. So maybe there is a chance this actually is going to be his last match. But I think I said it feels like they would promote it as his last match if it was going to be his last match. And now we've heard some rumblings that it might in fact be. Now let's look at both sides of this coin. Now, if it's not his last match, then great. But if it is, it's kind of a bummer that, maybe it's not being promoted as his final match. But then again, maybe Edge doesn't want to go out, with all of that adulation. Maybe he just wants to have a match, put somebody over, and call it a day. And Sheamus would be a fitting opponent when you really think about it, even though it's an opponent that he's never faced. It's an opponent he doesn't have real history with. A lot of times when you're thinking of somebody's final match, you think about somebody that they've worked with or could come back, or I don't know, or put over, some young star or whatnot. Now, Sheamus is not a young star. Sheamus is close to retirement himself. But when you think about the very fact that we're seeing Edge in the ring right now, largely in part because of his relationship with Sheamus and how that all started. Not to say Edge couldn't have had some other incident take place in his life that would have made him realize that, oh, maybe I can get back in the ring. But it does feel fitting, if Sheamus is in fact going to be his final opponent, that's who he's closing out his career with. Somebody that he was with when he made the discovery that he could get back in the ring to begin with, and somebody he's never faced before. They're friends. He can put him over. Sheamus has been quite vocal lately, too, about, maybe his frustrations with creative, him being on a 2-hour show when Roman Reigns' segments take up half of the show. I've said for months that the Bloodline would be probably better off on Raw because there's more TV time to work with there. Or on SmackDown, it's much more condensed. So, maybe this is WWE's way of throwing him a bone, or for Edge to go to bat for him and say, hey, how about I have my last match with Sheamus? He beats me, and he'll be the last person to wrestle me. That's a nice little feather in Sheamus's cap in terms of his career legacy, I would think. So maybe that's the case. Either way, it's kind of sad if this is, in fact, the end of Edge's career, because his comeback was so amazing 3.5 years ago when he showed up at the Royal Rumble right before COVID hit, and just how monumental and emotional that moment was for him and for us and for every Edge fan. This feels like if this is his final match, it's how he wants to go out, and I'm sure he's completely at peace with it. It just feels like it lacks the big moment vibe or something. I don't know how to explain it. So we will see if Friday night does in fact turn out to be Edge's last match. All I've seen is the headline rumors. I haven't really dug into any of this. I didn't see anything from Fightful Select or any of the really credible sources that I listen to or read news from talk about this really yet, but maybe we will see. Either way, best of luck to Edge. If this is in fact a career and we have 5 days left of Edge, then I'm glad we got him back for 3 more years, because as far as I was concerned, he was done in 2011. So the fact that he was able to come back 9 years later and give us 3 more years and give us some pretty memorable matches, WrestleMania main event, a Royal Rumble victory, some classics, able to come back and do that at that level at his age is pretty remarkable. So maybe quitting while you're ahead is the best way to do it. Plus, he got to have a match with his wife and all of that. So Edge was able to accomplish a lot in his return over the last 3+ years. And that makes me happy. So we will see on Friday if this is, in fact, the end for Edge. And if it is, we love you, Edge. We absolutely love you. I've been watching wrestling and going to shows for many, many years. And I was in attendance for a couple of Edge's dark matches in WWE before he even made it to TV. So I've seen him right from the beginning. And of course, I was involved in that famous car accident with him. I've told the story a million times where an 18-wheeler overturned on the road and him and Chris Jericho and Christian pulled over to help. And we got to hang out with them for a bit. And that was when Edge was real young. So we will see if this Friday is, in fact, the end of Edge in the WWE. And if it is, Godspeed, rated R, superstar. But let's talk about the meat of this podcast. Let's talk about what the whole subject matter is here. And that is CM Punk. CM Punk is at it again. And not for the right reasons. The whole entire wrestling world has been talking for the past 2 days, not because of what happened on Collision, but because what happened when Collision went off the air and was recorded on cell phones. Now, Collision, I thought, was a pretty good show. I thought it was exciting. I really liked the Book of Hobbs and Miro stuff. The Six-Man was great. Samoa Joe getting involved, choking out CM Punk. It was a pretty well-rounded, fun show of Collision, like Collisions tend to be. A lot of people, a lot of fans are singing the praises of AEW Collision. We've even heard stories about how it's a pretty chill atmosphere backstage as well. So all of the news regarding Collision has been fun and good up to this point. And every show at the end, there's always a little segment in the ring where the wrestlers talk or hang out with the fans or goof off or whatever. The WWE used to do this shit for years after Raw, so much so that they released a couple of DVDs on this exact topic. So this is nothing new. This is not different. I enjoy when the wrestlers hang around and send the fans home happy and talk to them, maybe cut a few jokes. Even Punk pulling back the curtain saying, "I told the House of Black no chops and they chopped me, so I'm mad." You know, the fact that he's saying that on a microphone in front of an audience is pretty crazy, whether it's on TV or not, even in 2023. So they're always goofing off and having fun, right? Well, for some reason, CM Punk decided to go off on Hangman Page again. Here's what he said after the House of Black and CM FTR match on Saturday. He was responding to a sign in the crowd because, by the way, Collision was in the Greensboro Coliseum, a building that I've been in many times before. As a matter of fact, that car accident I just talked about with Edge, Christian, and Chris Jericho, I was driving from Greensboro to Charlotte when that happened after an event at the Greensboro Coliseum. Or no, maybe it was vice versa. I forgot. It was after Unforgiven 99, whenever the fuck that was. So, but it was in those two cities. Oh no, that's right. We were going to Greensboro for Raw the next night. That was the night of This Is Your Life, which I was also in attendance for. Anyway, doesn't matter. Greensboro Coliseum was the home of Collision on Saturday night, and that is a city and a building that is very rich in wrestling history, and the announcers and Jim Ross were playing up to that a lot. I really, really like that. And CM Punk was responding to a sign in the crowd that said, "North Carolina is Hangman country." And this triggered Punk or whatever. Maybe he's just having fun. I don't know. But given the circumstances here with Brawl Out and everything that's transpired over the past year, this really shocked me. And so he goes, "Hangman Page, Carolina is Hangman country, huh? Well, when I went to a local supermarket the other day, I noticed why they call him, or I found out why they call him Hangman Page, because the action figures, the pegs in the store were loaded with Hangman Page action figures. He's a peg warmer, unlike me, who moves merchandise and pops ratings." So I don't know how good of a burn that was. I don't know if you go to a supermarket, you go to a Vons or a Ralph's or whatever supermarkets are on the East Coast, Harris Teeters and all that, or Lowe's Foods, and you go in there and you're expecting to see WWE action figures. Why would they be at a supermarket? Wouldn't this be at Target or a Walmart or a super center maybe? Perhaps not a supermarket. So he's acting like he can go, pick up, a case of beer at his local grocery and maybe an AEW action figure. So he says that Hangman Page action figures are everywhere, and they're everywhere because he's a peg warmer, whatever. And then he goes on to say, some people say in AEW say that they're the heart and they're the spirit of AEW, but that's subjective. And then he kind of started flubbing up his lines, and that's when he mentioned, he goes, "I told the House of Black no chops, and they chopped me anyway, so I'm mad." So he was kind of just messing around there. That was just a joke. But whatever he was trying to say about Hangman Page, whatever insults he was trying to fling his way. He seemed to get stumbled up there at the end and then blamed it on the House of Black chops. So again, here we go again. So once that happened, of course, everybody's talking about it. The videos were posted online and fans trying to make sense of all of this. And when I saw it, I said, well, this kind of gives me hope or optimism, because I think it would be really fucking foolish of CM Punk just when they're trying to get past everything here. They're trying to let things cool down. We even heard a report recently where the longer time goes by, the more likely it is that all these parties are going to be able to come together and possibly work together. And here, CM Punk, it just feels like he sets them 10 steps backwards with this type of stuff. And at first I was optimistic because I said, well, if CM Punk is calling out Hangman Page, that makes me wonder if actually they might be doing an angle or setting up for a match, because not only do we have All In coming up at the end of the month, and it's going to be CM Punk and Samoa Joe most likely at that event, they somehow have to figure out a way to book All Out, at least part of the card, ahead of time. Like, we already know Darby Allin's getting that title match, and maybe they are setting up for other matches here to where no matter what happens at All In, it's not going to affect their match at All Out. I feel like they got to have at least 2 or 3 matches on the All Out card that are already made prior to All In, if that makes any sense. Otherwise, you're going to book the entire pay-per-view in 1 week, and that's going to be hard to do. So I said, well, All Out's in Chicago. Maybe this is CM Punk setting up for a Hangman Page and CM Punk match at Chicago. You could even play into this at All In. Hangman Page can come down during the Samoa Joe and CM Punk match and play a role in the finish or the outcome. And then boom, you got a challenge right there for All Out in Chicago, and you're setting it up. And maybe these little comments were a way to plant the seeds for that. But again, these comments were made off TV. And I don't know what, the motivation for that is. I'm looking at things from Punk's perspective, which I've tried to do as best as I can, but I've maintained ever since All Out last year that he was in the wrong. For that. Everybody was technically in the wrong, but he was more in the wrong. To do what he did and go off like that in that scrum and to cause that much commotion in the company, I thought was really unacceptable. And it's a good thing he does have the name value of CM Punk, as anybody else would be out on their ass if they did this shit. And you saw a divide in the locker room and the division that caused and the turmoil and the drama, the drop in morale, all that stuff was started because of CM Punk's reaction to what he perceived as immature behavior by the Young Bucks. Or by the Elite. So even though everybody, played a role in this shit happening, CM Punk is always the one that turns it up to 11. Every time. With these goes to 11 because he's always at a fucking 11. Everything with him is an 11. And these comments here on Hangman Page, as we'll talk about from Meltzer and Fightful Select here in a minute, if these are in fact shoot comments and there was no plan for these to happen, then what the fuck is he doing? Like, what the fuck is he doing? What is he upset about? What is he butthurt about? Hangman Page hasn't said a fucking word in a year, ever since that workers' rights promo that Punk felt justified to retaliate over. Since then, Hangman Page hasn't said a word. If anything, he's distanced himself. He wants nothing to do with this entire situation. He's been largely off of TV. I know he did Blood and Guts, but he hasn't been doing a whole lot creatively. He's really kind of been on the back burner, staying away from the situation, avoiding the situation, not going out of his way to take any cheap shots at Punk on Twitter or on Instagram or anything like that. The dude has stayed completely fucking silent. Even the Bucks and Kenny have done a couple things. Kenny bit the guy at the Chicago show, and the Bucks have exchanged a couple of, traded some shots with Punk on social media, but Hangman Page hasn't said a fucking word. So what is Hangman Page doing that is still pissing CM Punk off? At this point, what does a 46 or 45-year-old man, whatever age CM Punk is, why is he holding a grudge like he's in 8th grade? It's been a year. It's been over a year since Double or Nothing 2022 and all that bullshit that happened between them. So what is Punk still butthurt about? Why is he mad? Because this sounds like he's lashing out or something, or he's got something on his mind, or he's frustrated in other ways with the Elite. They all did just re-sign. I think that it's unfair to think that might be a reason for this. Because think about it. They just all re-signed for a buttload of money. They're probably making close or the same as CM Punk. Kenny and the Bucks, I don't believe Hangman, but Kenny and the Bucks did retain their EVP status, right? Maybe Hangman did not. Do I have that right? So the EVPs have remained with Kenny and the Bucks. All 4 members of the Elite have re-signed. They all signed big money deals. You would think that they're probably in the neighborhood of what CM Punk is making. Maybe not more, but maybe that was in their maybe that's a personal thing at this point. Maybe the Bucks are like, if you want to keep us, I want $1. We want $1 more than CM Punk. We don't know. Maybe something like that happened. And now CM Punk is realizing, oh, these guys now have the same contracts I do. We're all making the same money. And now their contracts are going to last longer and outlive my contract. I'll be gone before they are. And since there does seem to be this power struggle within AEW, you know, the camps and the top stars and the Elite and Punk and all of that, which on the surface sounded great to me, because I'm like, wow, if you could create some sort of NWO versus WCW thing in your own company, but make it a little more shooty where the fans are getting involved too, as we've seen from wrestling fans on social media, they love tribalism. They fucking live for it. Wrestling is just dominated by tribalism now. So Eric Bischoff, you know, tried to take that WWE versus WCW war and transition it into his own company. Instead of WWE and WCW, it's NWO and WCW. You know, I kind of thought that maybe Tony Khan, CM Punk, and the Elite were maybe trying to do the same thing. Let's try to capture everybody's attention and get everybody to pick a side over here instead of picking a side between the two big companies. Because even fans who aren't really watching much of AEW but also love to be tribal might see an opportunity to be tribal and then jump in on that. Because I've seen plenty of AEW haters who seem to have a dog in this fight. People who claim to hate the company still have picked a side here. I'm like, what do you care at this point? You have gone out of your way to let everybody know, Joey Asscock, bunch of numbers, what you think about AEW. You can't stand them and you tag Jim Cornette and fucking everything. So why the hell would you care who's in the right and who's in the wrong in this situation? This should not interest you at all. But it does interest them because it gives them a reason to run their fucking mouth and to be heard. So if you can get fans interested in being tribal in something else, that might actually draw a lot of eyeballs in. So this was like the best case scenario I was thinking of in my head when all this started. I'm like, you know, this might actually not be a bad idea. Some of the greatest ideas in wrestling we weren't sure about at first. You know, when it first happened, like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work. And then it just turned out and it grew organically and it turned out to be a huge thing. So I thought that maybe the Bucks, Kenny and Punk and Hangman were on the verge here of doing something very unique in the wrestling business that hadn't really been seen before, or it's a twist on something that was done before. I thought that maybe they could create that here. But the more and more we hear about that issues between all these parties are still not resolved. They still haven't really sat down and hashed everything out. There's been a meeting or two. I think Punk's met with Jericho and Moxley and, you know, maybe some others. We'll talk about Ryan Nemeth here in a minute. And all of that, but you haven't had anything with the parties that were actually brawling with each other. And nobody's been able yet, after a year, been able to sit down and actually discuss this shit like adults from what we understand. Maybe there's some secret meeting that nobody knows about. Maybe they're blowing smoke to the dirt sheets. We don't know. But I feel like the reports here that we've heard from Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and others are accurate, and that there is still not a resolution and there is no working plan in place for these people to work together. Which is why I just can't understand why Punk would do that. How much shit does he need to be involved with? He's got the shit with Ricky Starks right now. He's also involved with CMFTR and like kind of a Bullet Club Gold thing going on. He's got Samoa Joe at Wembley Stadium. He's walking around with the old championship with an X on it, calling himself the real world's champion. So he's kind of got a little thing with MJF. And now he's calling out Hangman Page. Like, Punk wants to have his fingers in everything. Doesn't it seem that way? I mean, how many storylines is he overlapping with right now? You know, is he trying to verbally get himself on Dynamite or something like that? Is he trying to make himself as relevant as possible so no matter where you look in the company and whatever storyline is going on, it has an attachment to CM Punk? That sounds like some Hulk Hogan shit. That doesn't sound like somebody who's got the best interest of the company in mind. It sounds like somebody who's got the best interest of themselves in mind. And a lot of times you have to be that way in wrestling. Some of the greats have looked out for number one first. We know how that is. Everybody does that in their regular life too. You got to protect yourself. That's understandable. But you also have to have some sort of an understanding of being a team player. And if the company grows and makes money, you will too. So you want big houses and you want all of that. So Punk's motivation here, for somebody that's supposed to be so savvy and so smart, somebody who's trying to run a business, as he said, Doesn't look like you're trying to run a business. It sounds like you're airing personal grievances. It sounds like you're letting the world know that you can't get over grudges. He can't, because he never shuts the fuck up. I mean, I cannot believe some of the relationships that he's had destroyed, the Colt Cabana stuff and everybody else that he's had falling outs with. If I'm a wrestler, I am not befriending CM Punk because that's too much stress and pressure, because it can crumble at any moment. When you're really friends with somebody, you trust them as a friend. You might have disagreements or problems or issues or incidents that come up, but you're friends. You're going to get through it. And I think if you're really CM Punk's friend, you're never really truly going to have that feeling. Because I have friends in my life where I know we could probably get in a fist fight and we'd probably come back together. That would never happen, but if we did get in a fist fight, I'm pretty sure we'd be bros when it was over, But I think that with CM Punk, that's just not possible. So I don't know if something has happened behind the scenes or what sort of frustration led to CM Punk saying that, because some fans might say, well, he's wanted to sit down with the Elite and they won't do it. Okay, fine. Maybe there's a reason for him to say that, but he still shouldn't have. It doesn't make it okay. Punk might have had an internal reason to do that, but all you're doing is harming the company. Collision was a great show. Who was talking about the results of Collision on Saturday night? Not one goddamn person. What were we talking about? What CM Punk said. So I want everybody to get along. I want CM Punk and the Elite to remain in AEW. I don't want CM Punk to go anywhere or anything like that. But it is really hard to justify and understand and see where CM Punk is coming from in all of this. He is not doing himself any favors, making a case for himself that he's not a locker room cancer. We actually heard that name thrown at him. When you're doing stuff like this, how can you look at this as anything other than harming your company, the company that you work for? Because you know how wrestling fans are. You know how social media is. CM Punk's not dumb. He went out there knowing damn well, doesn't matter if it's off air or not, he knows that every single word is going to be on the internet 2 seconds after he says it. And the whole world is going to see it, the whole world is going to hear it, and the whole world is going to talk about it. We had some pretty damn good matches on Collision. Nobody talked about those at all. We had Arn Anderson coming out in Greensboro. How cool was that? Nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about anything. It was all about CM Punk and what he said about Hangman Page. So I would like to think, trust me, I would love nothing more than for this to be the biggest work of all time, or the biggest swerve of all time, to where they are actually taking steps to throw the websites, the dirt sheets, the journalists off the trail, get false information out there that everybody hates each other, and then you do some crazy fucking angle in the middle of the ring and all in front of 80,000 people, have somebody run in on the other's match, the Bucks hit the ring, super kick, double super kick CM Punk, and he lands right into a coquina clutch from Samoa Joe. Something like that would be great, would be absolutely great. But you would think if cooler heads are going to prevail, and it just takes time. Every time something like this happens, every time CM Punk acts like an asshole, it just feels like it's going to make that less possible. So that's kind of my thoughts on what CM Punk said. It just kind of makes me shake my head. I'm like, look, if this is an angle, great, awesome, keep it coming. But if it's not an angle, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? What's your motivation? How is any of this going to help AEW? None of it's going to help AEW. All it's going to do is give you publicity. That's it. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing at the end of the day, if it's, really rooted in kind of selfish motives here, but we'll see. So anyway, there's some other factors to this whole story. So not only did Punk shoot on Hangman on Saturday night and all the things he said there, Meltzer said that Hangman Page was supposed to be in Greensboro on Saturday to film a pre-tape for Dynamite. When he got there, he was told that they have to film away from the building and he was sent home, which implies that Punk doesn't want Hangman Page there. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what that implies. And if that's the case, does Punk have the power to deny entry of another employee? If I'm Hangman Page, I'm like, I work here, I'm coming in, and I'm going to go right to catering and eat some food because I work here. I'm allowed to be here. I don't give a fuck what anybody in the locker room says. I'm allowed to be here. Tony Khan wants to send me home. He could send me home, but why? But apparently they did. We don't really know the reason why, but apparently it's because Hangman and Punk can't be in the same building or some stupid shit like that. We were also told about Ryan Nemeth being sent home as well. And Ryan Nemeth had tweeted out several months ago that CM Punk was the softest man alive. I remember seeing that tweet when he sent it. So there was some reports about that yesterday. Today, about an hour before we went live, Fightful Select posted a report about this, elaborating on many sides of the AEW Collision CM Punk removal situation. And I quote, as highlighted on August 13th, Ryan Nemeth was brought into North Carolina before the tapings, before he was promptly sent home. We've learned more about the words that they had recently. According to those familiar with the situation, Punk approached Nemeth when the two were at the Chicago Dynamite, where Punk was asked to be at. So that would have been that week after he debuted, or he returned, and he showed up on Dynamite. Punk spoke to Nemeth and asked him to make good on his, quote, literally the softest man alive tweet. The two moved out of the locker room and into the hallway, where those close to Punk claimed that Nemeth said he was working to get heat. Punk believed that the tweet was Nemeth trying to score points with his friends and asked him to knock it off because, quote, tensions were high and they were trying to move on. Oh, really, Punk? Oh, really? Tensions are high and you're trying to move on? What the fuck do you call that last night? Hypocritical motherfucker Phil Brooks? Jesus Christ. He said, Fightful Select goes on to say, he said that he didn't want Nemeth being passive aggressive. Well, what do you think that was last night, CM Punk, or on Saturday? He said that he didn't want Nemeth being passive aggressive unless they were handling it another way. Punk, fuck off. Fuck off. Jesus. People close to Punk claim that Nemeth apologized and that the two had shook hands. So that's good. And we did, and Nemeth wasn't the only one. There were definitely people we saw after that happened, pro-Punk tweets and anti-Punk tweets. There were some. Brandon Cutler, remember, this guy gets it, and he quote tweeted somebody who shit on Punk. And you've had others like Jade Cargill and other talent who have gone out and say, we really get along with Phil. He's great to us. He's mentored us. He's given us advice. He's been nothing but polite and kind and nice when we talk to him. CM Punk does have allies. It's just when CM Punk decides he doesn't like you, my God, he just does not let up. So the report concludes by saying it was confirmed to us that Punk didn't want Nemeth on Collision, even eating and catering, much less wrestling on the show. It wasn't clarified to us if that was because of his tweet or the relationship with the Elite. In addition, Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling reported that the reason Christopher Daniels was kept from Collision was because Ace Steel, CM Punk's friend, is not allowed to be at Collision either, and Punk didn't see that as being fair, as Daniels was also involved in the breaking up of the Brawl last September. We got to talk about that sentence. We've made an effort to reach out to Nemeth, but he's off of social media for the time being. So let's pause here before we read the rest and talk about this paragraph. So Punk, it was confirmed to Fightful Select that Punk didn't want Nemeth on Collision or even eating and catering. Now, this is crazy. And then he tells, Nick Hausman reported that the reason Christopher Daniels was also, I think, sent home was because of Ace Steel, and he's Punk's friend, and Christopher Daniels was involved in breaking up Brawl Out. So if Ace Steel isn't allowed to be around, then Christopher Daniels isn't allowed to be around. Okay, first of all, two things. Number one, Christopher Daniels is head of fucking talent relations. He has to be there. Number two, he didn't bite anybody. I don't recall hearing about a Christopher Daniels dog bite to any other wrestlers or CM Punk or Larry or Ace Steel or his wife or anybody. So this doesn't make sense. Now with Ryan Nemeth, he, I think, is not under contract, right? Do I have that right? So if Ryan Nemeth is not under contract and he's not even a contracted employee of the company and you are the company's top star, then okay, I admit, maybe that's an amount of power that you have. Because when you're a top star, you do have stroke. You are in the owner's ear. You probably can get things done your way. We've seen that time and time and time again with Hogan and Shawn and Cena and everybody else that's been on top sometimes gets their way, and they do have a lot of pull and influence backstage. So if you are a top star in the company and you're one of their former world champions and you don't want an uncontracted talent around, you probably have enough power to push that guy out. That at least I can give a pass to, even though I think Punk is being a little bitch about it. But at least if Punk feels that his work as a main eventer is going to be compromised because he has this distraction of this guy who doesn't even technically work here being present backstage, and it's too hard for me. I can't take it. So maybe he gets him out of there. Fine. Still fucked up, but that's wrestling. That's reality. The Christopher Daniels stuff really pisses me off because is Daniels friends with the Elite? Sure, but he has an important role in the company. He's head of talent relations. Is he not? He's kind of the go-between between the talent and Tony Khan. He's got a very important role. How can you not have your head of talent relations, not present at a major television show, a weekly 2-hour show? And it's just so stupid. And like, who is Punk saying this to? Who's agreeing to it? Is Punk saying this to Tony Khan? Tony, if Ace Steel can't be here, I don't think it's fair that Christopher Daniels is here. And Tony's like, well, he's head of talent relations. You know, he has to be here. He didn't bite anybody. Ace Steel's situation was different. It's the decision we made. You know, what does Punk have over Tony, or what is Punk saying to Tony that makes him agree to this? I mean, if I'm Tony Khan, I'm like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, Punk, but he's got to be here. And is Punk that butthurt to where he doesn't want anybody who's even friends with the Elite to be around him? Explain to me how this is going to make your company better. I mean, why does it have to be this way? CM Punk is, you know, he's a big name. He can just offer a lot. He brings a lot to the table. I've been enjoying him a lot on Collision. I like this dynamic between being a heel, being a face. He seems to be really enjoying it, and he seems to be enjoying himself. But if he's to the point where he can't even have people who are friends with the Elite or have a good relationship with the Elite be around him, then tell me when Ryan Nemeth's tweet is telling lies. Literally the softest man alive? Sounds true to me. That's Punk's big catchphrase, right? Tell me when I'm telling lies? Well, tell me when Ryan Nemeth is telling lies. Because that tweet sounds accurate from where I sit. But we also don't truly know the story. But there was another report made about Matt Hardy being flown in and then being told to leave. Why? You're taking time away from your family? You're leaving, flying to a location, getting a car, driving there to be told to go home. You can't text me and tell me not to come. You can't call me before I leave my house and say, no, don't worry about it. Phil's being a bitch. Stay home. You get all the way to the arena and they're like, oh, no, sorry. Oh, what's that? Oh, you got 4 kids at home. Okay, they'll be fine. You didn't need to spend the time with them anyway. It's more important for you to take a couple of flights and drive a few hours to get to this fucking building for us to send you home. Luckily, in Matt's case, he doesn't have to go far. Greensboro is not far from Fayetteville, but he does have to drive there still. But not even Greensboro, if this is happening at other venues or other events. Why? This shit needs to be worked out, or what's going to happen is it's going to come to a head. Somebody's wires are going to get crossed sometime. And if Tony Khan, who's already wearing 100 different hats in the company, he forgets about something, or he forgets that an Elite member is going to cross paths with Punk and he didn't take steps to make sure he avoided that, you know, and then something comes to a head again and it just sets you back another 10 steps and you got more fucking suspensions, or you have talent threatening to leave or walk out if so-and-so's not fired. It's not going to end well. You guys are just a couple of weeks away from the biggest show easily in your company history, and most likely the biggest show in the history of wrestling altogether. And the fact that you're on the doorstep of that and you still have these type of reactions is not good, man. You know, this card is already kind of getting some critiques from fans as maybe not being the strongest that AEW is capable of. That's fair enough. That's a fair criticism. I still think the show's going to be great. I do. I just think when you've got 80,000 people there, there's not going to be enemies that day. I even think CM Punk and the Elite, when they see that crowd and they see what they've done, are going to kind of forget about those problems, at least for that night. You know, but still, it's not doing them any favors trying to focus on the show, book the show. You got not only that, but then a week later, you've got All Out to worry about. There's so much to worry about and organize in AEW from a creative and booking perspective right now as it is. There is no way distractions like this are going to be positive for the company. And I ranted a lot on Punk last year because of this stuff, you know, and even though I understand there's two sides to every story, and I truly believe that Punk believes he's right in how he's behaving, what he's doing isn't helping. It's detrimental to AEW's growth, wrestling's growth, and just overall human healing. So these parties do not like each other clearly, but the fact that it's getting to the point now where you've got Matt Hardy, Christopher Daniels, and others being told to go home because Punk wants a completely kumbaya locker room and he only wants people eating catering that he approves of. Fuck you, CM Punk. If I was a wrestler, even if I was a lower card guy, and Punk's like, I don't want you here eating catering. I just take a big piece of steak and just eat it right in his face. So tender, so juicy. Ooh, I'm dripping juice on my chin. Excuse me. Let me grab some napkins and some of these beverages to wash this down. Fuck you. I'll do what I want. I work here too, asshole. You know, it just blows my mind. I have to go into work all the time on my days off. You know, I leave something there to pick something up, or I have to drop something off, might have a quick meeting, you know, and I'm out running errands anyway. I drop by work, I go in the office, sit down, shoot the shit with my boss and hang out. If I was told, hey, you have to leave because the lunch chef downstairs doesn't like you, I'm like, well, too bad for him. I'm here. I work here. I have just as much of a right to be here as he does. Fuck him. So I don't understand how any of this is even possible, how Punk can dictate who's eating and catering. That pisses me off. I'm not going to lie. That pisses me off. So anyway, there's more to this Fightful Select report. Let's keep going. We've confirmed that Hangman Page was around this past weekend for a pre-tape. This is what I just talked about. This is the story that Meltzer talked about. But we haven't confirmed he was at the building and asked to leave. So they have not confirmed that. We should at least say that Fightful has not confirmed that Hangman was asked to leave. Wrestling Observer reported that Page was told they need to do a pre-tape away from the arena. After the show, Punk cut a promo taking shots at Hangman Page, which House of Wrestling claims didn't come off the way Punk wanted and felt bad about them after. So there's a little bit more elaboration. So maybe when Punk got to the back, he did feel bad. I don't know. But we do know when he was cutting that promo, he did kind of screw up. I don't know what kind of message he was trying to deliver, but he chalked it up to the House of Black Chops. Hey, I lost my train of thought. I got chopped. I told them not to. I'm mad. That was pretty funny. And apparently, according to House of Wrestling, Punk does feel bad about them, but still, why did he say them to begin with? You know, if you felt bad, good, you should. But what was your motivation for saying these to begin with? That's what I want to know. The report goes on to say Punk claims to people that he talks to that he still wants to sit down with Hangman Page, Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, but they refuse. So which is it? They don't want to sit with him, so then he's saying, I don't want them around my building. Is that what he's trying to say here? Those we've spoke to say that Hangman Page generally avoids the situation and has not been interested in working with Punk at least over the last year or so. And that's what I said earlier. Page is completely silent through this. Even if you did force yourself to blame Hangman Page for everything, well, it's now been like 18 months or 15 months. It's been a long time, and Page hasn't said a fucking word since the workers' rights stuff. So you should get over that. Everything Punk has done has been far worse than anything Hangman Page said in that promo 15 months ago. Let's get over ourselves here. The situation was not a work on Hangman's end as of publishing this article, though many on Collision have said that they believe Punk is trying to work himself into an angle. Those close with the elite say that these situations make them want to distance themselves even more, and that I can understand. So if this is Punk's way of trying to force the issue, if this report is real and Punk really does want to sit down with the members of the elite, but they're the ones turned off by it and they don't want to do it, they just want to move on, that's their right too. I think everybody should come together and make money. I think it would be stupid not to, but I can definitely respect the position of somebody saying, no, I don't want anything to do with that guy. I can get that. It's CM Punk. If there's anybody in wrestling that any wrestler, no matter who you work for, what company you work for, or what you do, or what your reputation online is, or anything, if there's one wrestler that I can completely understand anybody, even the biggest asshole, saying, I don't want to work with him, I can understand that when it's CM Punk. Maybe some others I couldn't, but given CM Punk's track record and reputation, how can you blame anyone for having that opinion of him? I can't. It's probably just better to ignore him and avoid him than to fucking deal with it. And I don't blame anybody who has that opinion. You know, however, when you're talking about the amount of money and the history you could potentially make here, I'd be willing to at least hear him out, but maybe they don't even want to hear him out. We weren't in the fight. We weren't in the locker room. We didn't get chairs thrown at us. We don't know. We don't know. So it's really hard to really speak on this in terms of like how you would act, because you don't really truly know the whole situation. So that's very interesting. Now, Fightful Select says that they have confirmed that Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy were supposed to be at a recent AEW Collision episode, and their travel was booked but then unbooked. They were not scheduled to be this past week's episode of Collision. Okay, so I was wrong there. Matt Hardy, this was a different episode, so that holds true. You know, him leaving his family, flying to an arena just for it to be revoked or unbooked or sent home or whatever is kind of bullshit. Fightful goes on to say the talent that have been pulled are of the belief that it was CM Punk, but we haven't heard specifically that's the case. The same suspicion is part of the domino effect that led to where we are now, dating back to speculation that Colt Cabana was initially not going to be re-signed by AEW. We've not heard of Tony Khan's reaction to the situation outside of that he was excited for Punk to be back. Pro Wrestling Torch said that Khan was audibly exclaiming as Punk walked by him at Gorilla upon his return. So I think Tony Khan was jumping for joy on Punk's return to AEW when he showed up and had the Counterfeit Bucks promo. So all of that is really interesting. It's getting to the point now where it sounds like Punk is trying to dictate who is present backstage. These are big arenas. I don't understand why you can't just avoid each other if you don't want to see each other or whatever, but it's all just very messy, and it just continues to be messy. And that final little paragraph there where a lot of the talent is feeling like CM Punk is trying to force the issue into an angle, maybe he is. Maybe that's what he wants to do. Maybe he's thinking that if he runs his mouth enough, eventually maybe the talent, maybe Hangman Page is going to say, well, now if I don't respond, I'm going to look like a chump. You know, Punk has got me by the balls. He's calling me out publicly. If I just ignore him, I know why I'm ignoring him, because I fucking hate his guts and I don't like him. But the public is going to perceive that as me being scared of him. And I got to be honest, even with CM Punk's MMA training and a couple of UFC fights that he had, I'm not even scared of him. You know, like if Punk and Hangman Page got in a shoot, I would not automatically pick Punk. I think Hangman Page would take him. I think there's a lot of wrestlers in the company that could beat the shit out of CM Punk if it ever came to that. I want to see CM Punk make enemies with Andrade or Roosh and see where that gets you. You know, it feels like, Punk at some point, the more he just keeps yelling and screaming, somebody's going to jack him up. He's going to make the wrong enemy one day. Somebody with nothing to lose, who just fucking caves his face in. It's crazy to me. So I don't know what the end result is going to be. I don't know how this is going to play into All In or All Out. I would love nothing more than this entire episode to be looked at 2 weeks from now and saying, wow, they got us. Greg was on his fucking podcast ranting about what an immature piece of shit CM Punk was, and look at that. They swerved us all, and it's a big angle, and Punk interferes in the Bucks and FTR match, or Hangman interferes in Punk and Samoa Joe's match, and you get some sort of match booked for All Out in Chicago, which will just have a ton of crowd heat. You get some sort of an Elite and Punk combination in Chicago for All Out. I think those 10,000 people could be just as loud as the 80,000 in London, if you get the right combination there. So maybe that's Punk's way of seeing that there's a pay-per-view on the calendar coming up in a couple weeks in Chicago. Let's try to work something out for that. But again, you're doing this off air, and you need to start doing this stuff on air. And on Dynamite, if Hangman Page is booked for the show and he comes out and says nothing about this and just continues his shit with the Elite or the Dark Order or whatever he's doing right now, because he doesn't really have a whole lot going on either. So, maybe, if he comes out and does something on the show and just doesn't even make any subtle hints to what CM Punk said, then that reiterates to me that Punk was doing this on his own and the Elite just don't want to work with him. And that might be what it's about. I would, like I said earlier, I really, really do understand that. If any wrestler says, I don't want to work with him, I get it. I'm not sure if I would want to either, but I might rethink it if I look at the situation and realize, man, the amount of buzz and the fan interest and how this has really captivated wrestling behind the scenes for the better part of a year. And how if we do have some sort of big pay-per-view match, or we have a big run-in or an attack or something like that, that's really going to do a lot, for business. It's going to get a lot of eyeballs on us, a holy shit moment. So that's why I don't want to hear, like, if hypothetically, if some big agreement got made between CM Punk and the Elite. There was some meeting with Tony Khan. They all shook hands. Everything's cool. Water under the bridge, whatever. Let's work together. I don't want that to be reported. I don't want Sean to hear about that. I don't want Dave to hear about that. I don't want to read that on Fightful Select. Apparently a meeting happened between Punk and the Elite, and they're going to work together. And so look for angles to start happening on TV soon. I don't want to know ahead of time. I want it to hit me. I want us to think that things couldn't be worse between all parties, and then one of them interferes in the other one's match. That's what I want. Give me that in Wembley. Give me anything like that. Punk coming out, hitting Matt Jackson with a go to sleep. When the ref's back is turned, FTR beats the Bucks because of Punk's interference. Then ref bump during Punk and Joe. Joe is down. Punk is in the ring with his back turned. Here comes Hangman Page running down that ramp. And I hope that ramp I hope it's one of those ramps that connects to the ring at All In. I hope it just goes all the way to the ring. And Hangman comes running and he buckshot lariats right over that top rope and takes Punk's head off. And then Samoa Joe beats CM Punk because Punk beat Samoa Joe in the Owen, right? And now Joe's pissed. He's calling out CM Punk for Wembley. I feel like maybe Joe should beat him, I feel like. And, having some interference there would be a good way to make that happen. So maybe Hangman can interfere. And if they did something like that, I would be elated. I would be like, thank God. That means that hopefully at least everybody's agreed to get along enough to work a program, unless they've decided to do this, but they all still hate each other, which also might translate into good TV. Brett and Sean worked together while they hated each other. Maybe these guys can too. We don't know, but that's kind of what I hope to see if we do get any program here between these guys, is I want to see it happen out of the blue where we kind of don't see it coming. And there's been no evidence reported on the websites about this happening. It just happens. That's the way I would prefer it. So we don't know what's going to happen. But like I said, Punk's motives earlier on, the Elite all did re-sign their contracts. And you have to wonder if that does play into maybe Punk's motivation here. Maybe he is a little bit insecure, jealous, butthurt, angry, frustrated, whatever. All these guys re-signed for as much money as I'm making, and their contracts are going to last longer than my current deal. My current deal is going to be up, and if I leave, they're going to be the heart and soul of AEW going forward, and I'm just going to have been here for 3 years, caused a lot of problems when I'm here, and left, and that's the legacy that I left behind. So I almost feel like the Elite re-signing was just a way of saying, no, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay here just to bug you. If you hate us that bad, guess what? We've all re-signed multi-year deals. We're going to outlast you in this company. Plus we're a couple of years younger anyway. We're probably going to be here longer than you. Maybe this upsets CM Punk, knowing that he's not going to leave as big of a mark on AEW as he thought. He's lashing out. I don't know. But now I'm curious of when CM Punk's deal is up, because I'm guessing he signed a 3-year deal in 2021, right, when he came back, so it'd probably be up next year. If he'll re-sign, and it's just going to be this game of chicken between these two. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. And they just, neither one of them refuse to budge. And they're just going to be there backstage to compete with each other backstage or something. I don't know. So I feel like the Elite re-signing, maybe had something to do with Punk, some of Punk's anger bubbling back up. I don't know. It's a crazy situation. We are going to get into the Collision results here soon, but I've been talking for a long time and I've not read the chat in a while and answered any super chats, so we'll do that now. Please hit this video with a thumbs up button. I appreciate it. And please let me know if WWE has yet to announce or advertise anything for tonight's Monday Night Raw, because I know all we have scheduled is the Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus match. I'm looking on WWE's Twitter right now. It doesn't look like they're even announcing anything yet. Still no matches announced for Raw other than Trish and Becky. So who knows there? But let's go to the chat and see what you guys are saying. Let me go all the way to the top here. Okay, just a couple of supers. Not too bad. Chris Miner, appreciate the $2 from you. In the words of Frank Costanza, serenity now. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was reading some of this stuff. Please, God. Serenity now. Deshaun Robinson, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the $5. No one. Hangman. Punk. Well, let me tell you something, brother. Why is Punk so petty? What did he say about working with children? That's what I'm saying. He says these things. I'm trying to run a business and I work with fucking children. What the fuck do you call this? Maybe the Elite are just smarter in how they get their digs in on Punk. Maybe they're just doing a lot of talking behind the scenes, a lot of backstage high school drama. It gets back to Punk and he gets mad or whatever. But he's been way vocal about this. You think about everything that happened that pissed him off. the workers' rights promo, Kenny and the Bucks trying to bury him or affect his position in the company or anything that he thought that they were doing a whole year ago. He then has the all-out scrum where he goes completely fucking off and acts like an asshole. Then he has the brawl in the fight. Everybody gets suspended. The Elite come back. There was a couple of both sides dropped a couple of hints. Elite did a couple of things in the ring in Chicago. No big deal. Punk posted a bunch of shit on Instagram. Young Bucks changed their Twitter bios a couple of times, and then when Punk came back, it's the counterfeit Bucks and all of this. It seems like Punk has been anything basically that he accused the Elite of doing. He's been worse. He hasn't shut the fuck up about it. He keeps bringing it up. He's not letting it go. He's hanging on to this grudge. Sounds like the Elite want to distance themselves and Punk wants to continue to talk shit. That's the way it appears. A lot of this, that's the way it appears to the public. But is that the real deal behind the scenes? We don't really know. It just seems like a silly situation, and Hangman, especially in his case, because at least, Kenny and the Bucks have said and done a couple of things, but Hangman has been virtually silent the entire time. He's never spoken on it, never said anything, never dropped any subtle, stupid, douchey hints or shots or burns or anything like that. He's just been minding his own business and trying to distance himself from a negative situation. That's all he's done. And Punk is still, out there running his mouth. So it's really hard to defend Punk. Luckily, I have no dog in this fight. You got to, the camp on social media, you have people who like Punk and defend him, and just because it's more their hatred for the Elite because they have stupid imaginary hatred that the internet convinced them of. So it has more to do with like who you hate. So if you hate the Elite, you're just going to find a way to not make this CM Punk's fault. But it's really hard for an unbiased ear and an unbiased eye to look at this as any other situation than CM Punk kind of being an asshole here. It's really hard to look at it from any other perspective. And yeah, he might be a little bit of a crybaby. I wish he wasn't. I really do like CM Punk. I don't want him to go anywhere. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, CM Punk should just leave. He's too big of a name, but if it's, I said that last year, I feel like he has to be gone just based on what he did from a professional standpoint. You have to be gone. But luckily that injury made things a little bit different to where he was able to recover, take a bunch of time off. Cooler heads prevailed. They brought him back, but clearly things are not resolved yet at all, not even close. Did I miss anybody else down here? Well, we don't have to call him names. CM Skunk. CM Punk got checked by R-Truth. A lot of people have checked CM Punk. FTR. Corey, that's what I'm saying. I mean, FTR, I love FTR a lot. Fellow North Carolina boys, they're awesome. But do they really know what they're getting into here? Being this close with CM Punk, it's only a matter of time before something happens. And one of them country boys gets pissed at CM Punk, they might just straight smack the shit out of him too, So I don't know if CM Punk or if FTR, really knows what they're getting into, having this ally in CM Punk, because it's going to cause them some problems, maybe alienate them from other parts of the locker room as well. And then maybe one day you get in some disagreement with Punk that he takes the complete wrong way and then completely ends your friendship, cuts you off, and just talks shit about you on the mic and shoots on you on social media every chance he gets. Do you really want that? Do you really, really want that? So if you are somebody that wants to become friends with CM Punk, you better know what you're signing up for before you do, because homeboy causes waves. Let's talk about Collision the other night, by the way. It was a really good show. Ricky Starks came out to open the show to explain his actions with his whipping and beatdown and lashings of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat the previous week. And Tony Schiavone informed Ricky Starks that he has been suspended for 30 days, to which Starks responds and says he has gotten himself a manager's license. So he's going to be a manager instead. He's not going anywhere. I'm the hottest thing in wrestling, and you're still going to see me. I just feel like if you're suspended for 30 days, you're suspended for 30 days. You're not suspended from being a wrestler. You're suspended. Then why didn't Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks come back with manager's license when they were suspended? How come they just didn't get manager's license and show up on Dynamite? So that's dumb. I don't know what that even means. They've suspended Ricky Starks. Maybe he's a little banged up. Maybe that's what it's for. But they've suspended Ricky Starks, but it's not going to mean anything because he's just going to be out there as a manager instead. Like he was out there tonight just cutting a promo. So we will be seeing more of Starks on Collision going forward. Maybe this is also a way to keep him off of the All-In card, because if he's suspended, he's not going to have a match. But He could be a manager, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. That's probably what they're going to do. Samoa Joe is probably going to hire him as his manager, right? Starks is going to be in the corner of Samoa Joe as a manager. That will help Samoa Joe get the win. I'd much prefer the Hangman running down that long ramp and buckshotting CM Punk's head off as the finish to the Samoa Joe CM Punk match, but it's probably going to be Ricky Starks instead, because at least that way Starks can be on Wembley, on the card, at ringside, probably jump in the ring, take a move, take a bump, kick Punk in the face, something like that. He will do. It gets him on the card without giving him a match. I can live with that, I guess. And that's my prediction there, is he'll probably be in the corner of Samoa Joe. I really like the Book of Hobbs stuff. Chapter 2 of the Book of Hobbs. Hobbs is out there. He's just in crazy shape. He's getting scary looking, Hobbs. I mean, he always was, but in the last 2 years, you've seen, his physical definition grow, and he's becoming an absolute fucking monster. So he basically wants to redeem himself, losing the TNT title, losing in the Owen Hart tournament. And what better way to redeem myself than to call out the Redeemer himself? He calls out Miro. That's kind of interesting. Hobbs and Miro, I'll take some of that. Miro comes out. He's then attacked from behind by Nick Camarado and Aaron Solo, part of QT Marshall's group, and they're kind of playing it off. The announcers are like, oh, does Hobbs know? Did Hobbs know this is going to happen? Hobbs is finally trying to distance himself from QT, because the minute they stuck QT with him, it screwed him. And I felt like he was on the rise, and then QT just drug him down. It's like put an anchor on his ass. And I was really anxious for Hobbs to get away from QT. That's finally happened now. Camarado and Solo come out unsolicited, attack Miro. Miro fights them both off. But by this time, he's in the ring. He turns around and eats a spine buster from Powerhouse Hobbs. And hell, we might get Hobbs and Miro at All In. Book it. I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. Book it. We had Luchasaurus defending his TNT title. Luchasaurus and Christian were in the ring. Christian was carrying his TNT title. And he's talking smack to Greensboro, and that brings out Arn Anderson and his boy. Arn Anderson, he was a big part of why that building stands. A lot of Horseman days in the Greensboro Coliseum. I think the first 3 or 4 Starcades were held in the Greensboro Coliseum. I've attended 3 or 4 pay-per-views in that building, lots of Raws, lots of SmackDowns, and of course, back in the day, in the Crockett days, it was big Horseman territory. So it was cool to see Arn Anderson come out, and he brought his boy Brock, who's going to answer the open challenge of Luchasaurus and face him for the TNT title. So it was kind of cool to see Brock Anderson, Arn Anderson's son, wrestling for a championship in Greensboro. I like that. I like that a lot. Of course, he didn't win. Luchasaurus put him down, and I'm hoping that who is Luchasaurus? Luchasaurus has got possibly Darby on the horizon, right? That's going to be All Out. I'm hoping Darby Allin wins that championship back. Mercedes Martinez and Diamante defeated Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander. There was kind of a roll-up pin on Mercedes to Willow, and Diamante was on the outside of the ring. The referee didn't see it, and she kind of pushed on Mercedes back to add more leverage. She got the cheating victory, pin victory over Willow Nightingale there. The Acclaimed defeated the Iron Savages. Weren't they Bear Country before, right? Those are the Bear Country guys, right? The Iron Savages. They defeated them in a tag team match and did a nice little tribute to Billy Gunn after the match. So Billy hasn't been on TV since ceremoniously taking his boots off in the middle of the ring and retiring. We all know that's bullshit. We all know he's going to come back, probably turn heel on the Acclaimed, maybe join up with his sons again. Something like that is coming, but it's on the back burner for now. We'll have to find out when Billy comes back, and if the Acclaimed are going to maybe invite him to TV so they can give him a proper send-off, because they did mention that here. You guys didn't have a chance to say goodbye to him, so they just said chant for Billy or whatever. Maybe they invite Billy to come to TV to a Dynamite or a Collision. They do a little ceremony for him, and that's when he turns and the Guns show up or something like that. That could happen. We also saw Samoa Joe defeating Andrew Everett in about 2 minutes with a coquina clutch. And after the match, he got on the mic and he called out Punk again. He's been calling out Punk to face him at All In, and Punk has not responded. He said the real world's champ is acting like the real world's bitch, and said now he's done asking. He's not going to ask him anymore. Now he's going to convince him. And that brings us to the main event. CM FTR taking on House of Black in a 6-man. Really fun match there. And what wound up happening is Punk is, I think he gets clothesline over the barricade or whatnot, and he's on the outside of the ring, and Samoa Joe shows up and starts choking him out right in the audience there. And in the ring, Brody King is able to get the pin on Dax and retain the AEW Trios Championships, because this was for the titles, by the way. And Joe choking out Punk now should be confirmation that we are going to get that match at All In. And I guess next week on Collision, CM Punk will accept the challenge to Samoa Joe, and that match will be booked there. So All In is looking good. Like I said, it surpassed 80,000 this week. And I just, on Saturday, as of the Winged Eagle, they were still in the 79,000 range, but they did surpass the paid ticket numbers of SummerSlam 1992. So they've surpassed the paid tickets of WrestleMania 3, which I believe only had 78,000 people. WWE says it was 93. And then SummerSlam 1992 is also a disputed number by WWE. Every number WWE announces is disputed. The actual attendance of SummerSlam 92 was 79,000 and change. All In now is over 80K. And the next record that they are going to break, because they're nearly there now, probably less than 500 tickets away from breaking the number that WrestleMania 32 in Dallas drew. Now, WWE announces that number as 101,000, but they've openly admitted that that number includes everybody: ticket agents, parking attendants, staff, concessions, ring crew, production crew, all that stuff. 20,000 people seems like a lot of fucking employees, so that's probably inflated even more. But the Arlington Police Department announces the paid attendance of WrestleMania 32 is 80,709. That's how many times the little thing turned, whatever it's called, the tumbler or whatever it's called, when you go through and enter the building. So WWE's inflated announced numbers are bullshit. The actual tickets sold to WrestleMania 3, SummerSlam 92, and WrestleMania 32, all three of these are going to be surpassed by AEW. Not bad for a t-shirt company, huh? Not bad. So it's going to be a big show. And like I said earlier, it's going to be really disappointing if this CM Punk Elite drama forms some sort of dark cloud over a show that AEW as a whole, as a brand, as a company, is going to want to look back on with extreme fondness. I said this on Saturday. I said AEW is going to look at All In the same way. They're going to talk about All In the same way WWE speaks about WrestleMania 3. Now, granted, WrestleMania 3 is going to have a much more epic main event. I was there to see Andre get slammed by Hulk Hogan. That was a huge deal for the time. And it really can't be put into words how huge that was for wrestling. So even though AEW is going to match and exceed WrestleMania 3 in overall attendance, they're not going to surpass WrestleMania 3 in the epicness of their main event. You know, they don't have a match like that on there. People bought tickets to this event without knowing what any matches were. So it's just about going. It's about making this a great event. Is it going to be a great wrestling show? Of course it is. There's no way it's not going to be a great wrestling show. I have 1,000,000% confidence in that AEW locker room to go out there and put on a great show. But you don't have that mega match. You don't have that immovable force versus, your irresistible force versus your immovable object. You don't have any of that. It's just going to be a really exciting card of wrestling that I'm hoping, at the very least, has some major surprises, big title changes, swerves, something like that. I would love for CM Punk and the Elite to cross paths at the show, and I would love for some big angle to drop with MJF and Adam Cole as well. And you do those two things, I think the show's going to turn out to be pretty memorable. But you still need to be focused on making this show as historic as you're talking it up to be, because they're billing this as the biggest show of all time. Yes, maybe physically the biggest. Yes, it might be, but it's not the biggest matches. It's not the biggest main event. There's a lot about it that will not be the biggest of all time outside of the actual fans being there. But that visual is going to be something else. That's going to be some crazy shit to see all of those people there. I'm curious how AEW, is going to light it and stuff. I mean, think about all the equipment they have to buy. They're not used to doing these shows. Look at how WWE has those WrestleManias, these 80,000 person WrestleManias lit up with all the lasers and the spotlights and all of that. I really hope it doesn't look like SummerSlam 92 where it's kind of dim and dark. I hope they're able to brighten it up and make it look like an amazing production. We'll see how it all goes. I'm really anxious to see how the show looks, visually. And I'm really excited just to see how they book this show and what they do there and how they manage it. It's going to be interesting. And that's a big deal. It's a really big deal. I just cannot wait for that visual to see all those fans there in Wembley Stadium. It's going to be something else. But before that, hopefully nothing too catastrophic happens behind the scenes in AEW that affects the show negatively in any way, because a lot of this drama, I've seen it a lot from fans. I've seen it a lot from you guys. I've seen it on social media. A lot of people have been saying this for a few months, actually, several months, but something like this just makes it even more common and louder. And that is, we're kind of getting sick of it. We're just getting tired of it. Enough with this bullshit already. You guys are not in ninth grade. You're all professionals in your 40s or nearing 40s. You're all millionaires. You're making a lot of money. These type of things is something that I would expect in ninth grade high school, not between $1 million athletes. So it would be nice if they could clean this nonsense up. But anyway, that is going to conclude what I wanted to talk about here today. I'll hang out here in the chat and see what else you guys have to talk about, or any opinions you want to give me, or anything else you want to ask me. And then I will be signing off, and we will be watching Monday Night Raw here in about 45 minutes. By the way, you can do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me too, if you don't mind. Jose Lopez, yeah, you missed the whole damn thing. You missed the whole damn thing. All In seems more like a Mania 17 than a Mania 3. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too. Yo, FRGN, good to see you, man. Early morning here in Singapore. What's up? Punk gonna do punk things. You got that right, man. My God. Oh, shut up, Alex Slavinsky. Jesus Christ. In 1933, Jim Londos versus Cola had 110,000 people. Get your attendance, get your facts straight, Tony Khan. Stop being butthurt. I'm going to remove that just because it's a shitty comment. Don't be a jerk off. Just be happy that we're having a big crowd. I talked about this on Saturday as well. When you start seeing these announcements of AEW surpassing a SummerSlam or whatever, you got all the butthurt fans. Oh, there's this show and there's this show. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a huge show. It's a huge show. If you want to find some match from Greece in the 30s that had 100,000 people there, great, no problem. It doesn't change the fact that this is a huge show. And this is a professional wrestling, modern professional wrestling match. It's not the same thing that went down in Greece in 1933, Alex. It's not the same thing at all. So stop being stupid. Hi there, Ringside Hub. Good to see you. Matos, Greg, have you seen the tweet from Tommaso Ciampa? No, but I did see a video on social media today where Chelsea Green approached him backstage, and she's, of course, still looking for her partner to team up with her to defend the tag team titles, and Ciampa kind of went into a little story about how he missed Johnny Gargano. So I don't know if Tommaso's tweet is, if Tommaso's tweet is Johnny Gargano related. I don't know. Hangman Page needs the energy of Teddy Hart? What the hell are you talking about? No, he doesn't. Nobody needs Teddy Hart energy. Nobody. That is a stupid comment. Teddy Hart sucks. No, best of the best. I didn't see. This is the problem with people. They interpret things the way they want. I never once said ever that Hangman Page is a well-known fighter. Is that what you're implying here? Is that what you think I said? Did you hear what I said? I said no. I said, in my casual opinion, in my head, if I envision a CM Punk and Hangman Page fight, I'm not putting all my money on CM Punk. I actually think Hangman Page might take him. It has nothing to do with he's a good fighter or not. It has to do with whether or not he can beat CM Punk in a fight, and I think he might be able to. But it doesn't mean I'm some fighting expert. You guys are so quick to jump on stuff. Get a life. What's up, Angie Law? Good to see you. I think CM Punk is nobody. It's obvious no one can work with him. No one wants to, it seems like these days. But just not a good look. Not a good look at all for CM Punk on Collision on Saturday. So if we have heard some of these reports, like it did mention in the Fightful Select article, that maybe he feels bad about it. Good. You should feel bad. Yeah, hopefully he went back and said, that did not come out the way I wanted it to. Now I've made things worse. Shit. But again, if CM Punk texts one of these guys, or he texts Hangman or Kenny or the Bucks, are they just going to ignore him? From what we heard, it sounds like Kenny and Punk don't have that much of an issue with each other. It's not really them. Kenny's always been a very level-headed, likable guy. I think Punk's biggest issues with the Bucks and with what Hangman Page said in that promo. Kenny has never really came off looking like an asshole in any of this. So I don't know why you couldn't do Punk and Kenny at some point. That might be fun too, even though I think in the ring, Kenny will very much outshine CM Punk from an athletic perspective. But it would still be an interesting match because of everything surrounding it. And it would probably be a good match because Punk, even at his age, can still go, especially when he's in there with someone real good. I think Punk can easily have some great matches. Oh, yeah, Amato. Any news on Full Gear plans? Well, Full Gear is going to be in LA. It's going to be November 18th, I think, a Saturday. And it's going to be at the Kia Forum again. So I will be going. No plans yet. We got to figure all that out this fall. Starting in September, I'll start making some plans for Full Gear. But yeah, we'll probably go up there and have a little meetup. Since it's so close, I doubt we will spend the night. So we're probably going to drive up there, go to the show, and come home. So we'll have to work it around that. But yeah, Amato, we're going, man. Full Gear, Los Angeles. Oh, yeah. No, I don't even bring up. Yeah. Are we talking about the collision in Korea? Yeah, that doesn't count either. If you're forced to go to a show, it doesn't count. And if you want to nitpick, I talked about this on Saturday. If you insist on nitpicking this number, if it bothers you so much that they're announcing record-setting attendance and you want to dig and find fucking shows that may or may not have more people, then do that. If that's what you need to do to feel better, then go right ahead and do that. All I'm saying is it's a waste of fucking time. This is a big show. It's massive. It's awesome. And I'm sorry that bothers so many people. I'm sorry that AEW's existence and Tony Khan breathing air bothers you so much. But that's kind of a you problem, not a me problem. What if FTR says, God bless you to Matt Jackson after he sneezes? Well, they got to be around for one of his sneezes. That's for sure. Hey, Regina. Yeah. Why does this Greg Kiddo stream so early, way before Raw tonight? Because I got plans for Raw tonight, and I'm not going to be able to be here for a Raw review. Then I planned on being here tomorrow to talk about Raw and Collision and CM Punk, but I have a work conflict tomorrow. So my only day to really get up here and talk about this was tonight ahead of Raw. That's why you're seeing me now. But I think it's about time to sign out of here. I just had to come up here and give I wouldn't say 2 cents, give my $2 on the CM Punk situation. And I pretty much have the same stance that I had way back at Brawl Out. If everybody can get together and make money, that's great. Otherwise, taking little cheap shots is immature and it makes you look hypocritical, especially after everything detailed, about CM Punk and that we've known about him and the Elite over the past year. This is not making Punk look good. This is making him look like somebody that we've already known existed, somebody who cannot let go of a grudge, at all. He's calling out Hangman Page, who hasn't said a fucking word in 15 months about the situation, and he's still calling out Page and other people that frustrate him, and it's not going to be a work or an angle. Then none of this can benefit the company, the wrestlers, or the business that CM Punk's trying to run in any way. So it makes Punk look like a hypocrite when he does this, given all of the things that we've heard him say. I'm trying to run a business. I'm working with fucking children and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, what the fuck do you call all of this? Anyway, but we already talked about that earlier. If you want to hear me ranting about this whole thing, just rewind, scroll back a little bit. You'll hear all of that. I hope you guys enjoy Raw tonight. I'm going to be watching most of the show. I'll probably catch the first hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Then I'm heading out of here for dinner. So if anything catastrophic happens, you might see me up for a mic drop or something like that tomorrow. But I'm not expecting anything too catastrophic to happen on the show. We now are on the build to Payback. So we should get some indication of what Cody and Seth and Shinsuke Nakamura are going to be doing at Payback. I'm guessing we're going to get a Seth and Nakamura match, but they might stick Cody in there. Cody still needs to do something if he's not going to be contending for the World Championship. He's feudless right now, so that makes me wonder what he's going to do between now and WrestleMania if the plan is still for him to have a big impact in that Royal Rumble. and potentially even face Royal Rumble or Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 next year. If all of that is the plan, I'm very curious what Cody does right now. So we should maybe get some sort of an idea of what the plan for Cody is tonight as well, along with that Trish and Becky match that I'm assuming Becky is going to win. And then we got to keep our eye on Edge this Friday, who might actually have his final match in WWE. Those are the rumors right now anyway. And if that's the case, that's really sad. So I will be up here this week to talk about that as well. In terms of when I'm going to be back, up here, you might see me Thursday if we have crazy things happening tonight and we have crazy things happening on Dynamite. I might come up Thursday for another one of these Greg Balls of Fires. Otherwise, we'll be up here for Sunday for a watch along. I need to decide that. Probably going to be up here Saturday for a members only video. Keep an eye on the channel. Links will be hitting the channel in the next day or two for all this stuff. And then 1 week from tonight, we will be back after Raw doing a big full-blown Winged Eagle podcast and all of that. But you'll probably see me 3 other times this week before we get there. So enjoy Raw tonight. Thank you so much for being here on this Monday afternoon. Have a great rest of your Monday night, and I'll be